Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You got DanK here and you got Jeremy, am I right? We're here to tell you some interesting news. We got a lot of news on Oregon actually this evening, so things are really happening in Oregon. How are you going, Jeremy?
I'm doing pretty good.
I meant to talk to you about, did you want to talk about your working as a bud tender?
Oh, I've taken a volunteer position at Emerald City Medicinal Delivery Service, and I'm learning how to be a bud tender, and I'm learning some interesting stuff.
That's cool. I'm sorry to jump that on you. I meant to ask you before we went on. I forgot, but yeah, that's fantastic. See, this is the kind of thing that a person can do, and you got some time, you can go down and volunteer at these different organizations. This is the name of it is the Emerald what again?
Emerald City Medicinal Delivery Service.
That's right. And
they deliver, and they have a storefront as well.
And a clinic. They have clinic also. Now, it may be a different building or a different thing, but they also have clinics.
Oh, I didn't know that they were associated with a clinic.
Yeah. David, my mind went blank. But anyway, good people. And what's the address there?
I'm not sure offhand. Okay. It's at 6th and Alderman.
Yeah, we'll have it. Yeah, that's right. 6th and yeah, we'll have it. The address there on the screen for you. But anyway, that's fantastic. So, and what does the bud tender do?
Basically, when the patients come and tell you what they want to give the reimbursement, and you just fill their orders. Okay,
and then you help them with what you've got to help match them up with what they need.
Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, that's right. Fantastic.
A lot of it's knowing the different types and helping them find what they need. Like, if they ask which one's a sativa or an indica, you can tell them like a variety of different choices they have.
And whether one kind will help for like a headache or another for nausea and that kind of thing too. Yeah, that's great. Oh, that's great. Well, we're getting more and more sophisticated and organized, so that's great. It's coming together for the patients, and it truly is a medicine, regardless of what a lot of people believe. It is a medicine. Well, that's fantastic. I want to do some quick announcements here. I want to remind everybody we have our poster contest again this year, and the end of the contest is April 20th, so I'm sure to remind everybody about that. Working on the fundraiser, and it looks like April 5th at this point is a date that we're looking at pretty hard. And possibly it's a Cosmic Pizza, the first choice, and do a Saturday evening event to where it'd be a fundraiser, like I said, with a talent contest. It'd be say something like a $20 entry. Half of that goes to the house. I mean, half of it goes to the event, and half goes to the prize. And then whoever wins the contest wins that half of the intake or whatever. But anyway, so that'll be a lot of fun. I saw it done years ago by another group, and I always wanted to do that. So that's something I want to be looking at. And then I wanted to report on the Lane County chapter of the ACLU presentation that I was the MC, or not the MC, facilitator was the term. But anyway, their presentation, marijuana re-legalization, that went fairly well. We had 12 to 15 people there, and we hoped there'd been more people, but it was glad to have the ones that were there, and about half of them were new faces to me, so it's always good to see new faces because you know you're reaching different people that you haven't seen before on a regular basis anyway. And the Hempfest meeting was kind of sparsely tended, but that was fine. We ended up going to meet at Cosmic Pizza, but there was an event going on there that I didn't know about and wasn't posted, and so it wouldn't have been a good place for a meeting anyway, so it turned out just as well. So anyway, let's get into the stories here. And well, the first one, not really a story, but this is a guest editorial, I'm trying to say it, the Register Guard. It was on February 6th, written by Brian Michaels. Brian Michaels is a local attorney with extensive experience in criminal law and especially relating to marijuana issues. And he's been on the show several times. He's also our pro bono attorney for the Hempfest. So anyway, this is what he wrote on February 6th, titled "Phobia of Legalizing Marijuana Afflicts America." Well over a decade ago, the Fox News star Bill O'Reilly waged a boycott campaign against Pepsi-Cola for using the rapper Ludacris to promote its product, decrying that Pepsi obviously could not care about our children. I found this odd, albeit ironic, considering Pepsi contributes to soda-induced obesity and diabetes in our children. To protect children, why not target Pepsi itself, or Joe Camel? After some contemplation, the answer became clear. What upsets people like O'Reilly more than anything else are ideas. By O'Reilly's way of thinking, the ideas expressed by Ludacris were more poisonous to our children than any mere physical poison. A sad commentary on the so-called cultural wars, indeed. I told that story to tell this story. Chicken Little pundits who express their horror about Colorado's legal marijuana business seems to suffer what I call the madness of reefer madness. Seemingly rational folks adapt their thinking to the irrational tenets of the film Reefer Madness. Take, for example, the much-read New York Times column by David Brooks, confessing his own marijuana use as a teen, then concluding, in legalizing weed, citizens of Colorado are indeed enhancing individual freedom, but they are also nurturing a moral ecology in which it is a bit harder to be the sort of person most of us want to be. Brooks is able to look back on his experience with academic aplomb only because he was not arrested for his marijuana use. He had been arrested for his crime. If he had he been arrested for his crime, he would likely never have been admitted to the University of Chicago. He would never have become a successful pontificator upon all things political and social for the great and powerful New York Times. His would be but one more life thrown into the well of despair, to languish in obscurity because of the stigma of a drug conviction. Once properly tallied, it is obvious that Brooks' perceived moral ecology, of which it is a bit harder to be the sort of person most of us want to be, results not from one's use of marijuana, but from one's arrest for marijuana. Even Joe Scarborough, host of Morning Joe on MSNBC, is afflicted with this madness of reefer madness. Here's a guy who, in his era of divisive politics, has managed to embody the same Ronald Reagan principle I myself embrace, that reasonable people can disagree and that disagreement does not predispose disrespect. Yet all this otherwise rational thinker can think to say is, marijuana makes you stupid. Many people unsettled by marijuana legalization hide behind the simple notion that too many substances are already legal. Washington Post columnist Ruth Marcus, like Brooks, confessed to her use of marijuana back when, concluding that on balance, society will not be better off with another legal mind-altering substance. Translation: ideas. So I'm going to pick this on our next segment. I'll pick it up and finish that. But that's the editorial op-ed from Brian Michaels, attorney Brian Michaels. He's a criminal lawyer here in Eugene with extensive marijuana experience. He always speaks quite well, intelligently and well on the subject. Also, I want to tell you real quick that the next normal meeting is this Saturday, February 22nd. We're going to try for Cosmic Pizza again at 2 o'clock, and hope they don't have an event going, but hopefully, I don't think they will this time, but we hope for the best. I'll be 2 o'clock at Cosmic Pizza on Saturday. We have one phone call.
Well, I smoked some marijuana with some people I like, just like everybody does from the East Coast to the West. I didn't even notice the cop on the bike, didn't know I was about to be the 20 millionth marijuana arrest. Should have fought for marijuana law reform, should have gone to the web and typed in norm to the L.org. Norm will drop the A.org, baby.
National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Welcome back to the second segment of Eugene Cannabis TV. We're here with our second guest tonight, Devin Walker. So DanK, of course, I introduce myself again. I'm DanK, but this is Devin. So Devin, appreciate you coming in.
It's a pleasure.
And so you're here to tell us your cannabis story. So
Yes,
what's your story, man?
Well, to start out with, before I can get to that story, I got to start out with this one.
Okay.
In middle school, I wasn't a very popular kid. I couldn't defend myself against other students very well, and they took advantage of that. I suffer from depression, and add that to my ADHD, which I had Adderall to counteract with that, which just made it worse, because as we know, one of the side effects for Adderall is depression. And as the years went on, I started getting more, what's the term I should use, unstable. I thought about suicide, shooting up my school. There just seemed like I had a dead end. A couple of years back, I ended up smoking some weed with some friends. Everything turned out just fine after that. No suicide thoughts, didn't feel violent or rage. I just let loose and did my own thing.
Wow, that's excellent. Well, you know, and that's just it. We talk about people at parties and stuff and Hempfest. People don't get stoned and start fights, you know.
I've never met a
that's what the
mean
alcohol
stoner.
is.
Never met a mean stoner.
Yeah.
Unless you try to steal his food.
Yeah, right. That's true. Yeah, and again, they always talk about, oh, that's anecdotal, you know. I say, well, maybe anecdotal, but we're living it, you know, so what are you going to do? But well, that's fascinating. And then now we mentioned on the break a little bit about CBDs, and you're probably more up on than I am, but so CBDs are the main thing for the health patients.
They're, for cancer patients, the CBDs will attach to the cancer cells and kill them, along with any other infection or bacteria in your body that your body would normally reject. The CBDs will help get rid of that, like say a cold, headache, strep throat even, but you still want to get medication for strep throat. It's mandatory.
Yeah, definitely, but it can help what you are using. So
yes,
yeah, it's like they always said, don't mix your drugs, and I always said, well, you just got to know, no, you guys just got to know how to mix them. You know, it's like a little bit of wine and some herb. That's a great mixture. So you know, because that way you don't have a hangover and you still get the great feeling. But so anyway, so are you a card holder? I forgot to ask Kush. Is Kush a card holder?
No.
Oh, and you?
I'm a caregiver.
Yep, I am too. Okay.
Technically, I'm legal to have it on me.
Exactly. Yep. That's great. In fact, that's a good point. I'm glad we stumbled into that, because that's something I need to talk about. A lot of people don't understand exactly how the medical system card works in Oregon. People don't understand that card actually can represent 3 people.
Yes.
And each patient can have a grower and a caregiver, and they can be different persons. I've seen applications where people name the same person. Well, that's kind of pointless. There's no reason for it. That's just a waste of space, basically. The person that wrote that law told me himself, when we were trying to get it into law, he told me himself, every patient should have a caregiver whether they need one or not. That's an exact quote, because that gives that one person the protection. And that's the thing about me. I like to say, and I joke about it, and I haven't made any patients mad that I know of, but I like to say I'm not fortunate enough to have a malady that allows me to use marijuana legally in the state of Oregon, you know, which is kind of tongue in cheek, because who wants the malady, you know? Right. And I don't begrudge them at all. But anyway, being a caregiver is fine, because it gives me I can possess, and that's all you got to worry about. You don't have to worry about getting caught consuming. You just got to worry about possessing. So, and it works. I've been pulled over twice. The police officer said, I smell marijuana. Do you have a card? And I said, well, yes, I do. And I showed it to them, and they said, oh, thank you. And they're just all smiles and happy, and away they go.
My dad went through a similar situation. He was driving down the street, and this cop pulled him over, and cop came up and said, I smell weed in your car. And he's like, yep, and here's the card for it.
Yeah, cool. Quick draw, yeah. Well, it definitely works. And of course, and then the smell issue, too, something I try to mention often is to use the baking bags. Are you familiar with the oven baking bags made by Reynolds?
No.
I should have the package here. I don't. But yeah, the Reynolds oven bags are only about $3 a box, and there's 2 of them, so they're really inexpensive. But they're the thing that you put a roast or you put a turkey inside this plastic bag and then put it in the oven, and as it cooks it contains the juices and everything, but it's a special plastic because it doesn't melt. Well, something about that plastic that it doesn't let the smell out. You can put the stinkiest medicine you've got inside that bag and give it a couple of twists, and I guarantee you won't smell it. And it's a great way to transport. That's how they always that's how people transport it out of Northern California, all that stinky bud coming up the freeway. They put them in those bags, you know. I'm not saying it'll defeat dogs, but it'll definitely, a human won't smell it. I've walked into people's houses, you know, and don't smell a thing, and open up that bag and they go, oh man. So,
where would that smell come from?
yeah. So anyway, that's a good point, to always carry that with you, because that way you don't have to have that conversation with the officer. I just assumed he didn't even get to that point, you know. So anyway, that's one thing about the cards, is you can be a caregiver. And the other thing too, that always struck me as kind of funny, is I go to a lot of events, and a lot of them are card holder only events.
Of course.
And if you have a caregiver card, you can go in and stand right next to the patient and indulge, and nobody says a word about it, you know. But technically, you're not legal to use it. Only the patient is, but nobody enforces it, you know.
Let's see what happens there.
So it's just kind of always struck me as kind of funny, you know, as technically the caregiver isn't supposed to be indulging. That doesn't give them that permission. All they is possess, you know. But anyway, speaking of marijuana law, I mean, another thing that came to mind too, I should mention, I always like to have people know and understand. We had an attorney tell us one time, because one person said, well, how can I worry about failing a drug test if I'm using marijuana? It's a legal medicine, so why shouldn't I be able to have it in my system? Well, an attorney told us is that the Oregon medical marijuana law, all it does is keep you from getting arrested. It doesn't protect you from employment problems. It doesn't protect you from problems with probation officers. It doesn't do any of that. All it does is keep you from going to jail for possession, period, you know. And so
it should cover more broadly than that.
Well, it should. That's why I've been my argument. It's a medicine. The people have said it's a medicine, so why isn't it treated like all other medicines? And number one is how many medicines cost $300 an ounce, you know? So, of course, some of them are pretty expensive.
In some ways, it's a cheaper alternative.
Yeah. So. So anyway, yeah, and oh, by the way, I need to do a quick plug for a website. Speaking of this, I mean, you probably haven't heard of this. It's a new deal called growers2patients.net. This is a website that's free. Anybody can go. They don't have to even prove their card holder. Just sign up. And what it's for growers looking for patients, and patients looking for growers. We're trying to get the people together. Ever since I've been an activist, I've always come across people looking for each other, and so trying to get them together is the problem, you know. And one organization in particular I was actually performing at service, and they finally quit it because so many times the relationship went sour, and then they end up being the bad person of the whole thing. The group was, and so they just said it's not even worth it. To heck with it, so they quit. So this way, it's completely unhosted. It's a forum. You sign up and go on it, and then you're on your own, and everybody's on their own. And so anyway, it's
quick,
called
simple, easy, and straight to the point.
Exactly. It's growers2patients.net, and
check it out.
That's just, yeah. So anyway, I appreciate Devin coming in. And
anytime.
This is great. Yeah, I hope you come in. You're always welcome. Come back anytime. And if you come across other friends too that especially have a unique story, well, I don't say, I'm not sure it isn't unique, but you know what I'm talking about. So keep it in mind, because this is a tool of education, and we want to be able to educate people as much as we can on the issue.
People got to know.
Exactly.
They got to know.
That's it. So this is Community TV. It's a great facility, and it's very inexpensive to join, so please do. All right, we're back. You got DanK here and Jeremy, and we're just in the middle of a opinion editorial that our friend Attorney Brian Michaels wrote on February 6th in the Register Guard. He went on to say, what is it about this notion there are too many legal substances already? In a society dedicated to the principle of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, aren't we supposed to be looking at reducing government restrictions on our choices instead of reducing the number of choices our government allows? Yet even if you believe only a certain number of choices should be allowed, then we ought to be more circumspect about which items are on the list. Instead of adding marijuana to the list of prohibited choices, let's substitute marijuana for something more dangerous, say cigarettes, a well-known blight on Americans' health. Now look at your friends who smoke. Suppose they were criminals, forced to grow tobacco gardens in their basement or backyards. It is now their house, or your house, that would be broken into by paramilitary SWAT teams busting down your door, taking your property, your money, and your children, and you thought having to step outside to smoke was a bother? This sounds preposterous only because you know tobacco smokers and cannot see them as tobacco smokers and cannot see them as criminals. Isn't it really about us and them? People we know and love smoke cigarettes. They are a part of us. Those people who smoke cigarettes are not like us. They are them, absent any rational or scientific reason, other than that they like some people and dismiss others. They are criminals for smoking marijuana, while we are not criminals for smoking cigarettes. In the scheme of all things, in small things, less us and them and more just us would be good for us all. That's a mouthful. And by the way, one lesson we can learn from Toronto Mayor Rob Ford is that drunken stupors, not marijuana, lead to crack cocaine. So skip the gateway theory on that one. So anyway,
this is another editorial.
This is a letter to the editor, an answer to the editorial. Go ahead.
Oh, an answer to the letter editorial. Prohibition, not pot, is the problem. I appreciated the Register Guard's decision to print Brian Michaels' February 6th call on phobia of legalizing marijuana afflicts America. I mentioned to Michaels once about seeing all the "Don't Tread on Me" flags at ranch and farm gates in South Central Oregon. I told him I thought these good folks are at opposite ends of the same circle with cannabis legalization activists, when they should be standing shoulder to shoulder. His response was a wry mark. When and those "Don't Tread on Me" people realize that the government is a bigger problem than hippies, we've won. Prohibition is the problem, not pot. It was all the hate pot at all costs crowd that intentionally hid a government study conducted in the 70s that showed cannabis to be an effective cancer fighter. That study remained buried for 2.5 decades. The prohibition of cannabis is truly a big lie. All of it. Legalization, aka regulation, advocates are guilty of only enthusiasm. The government and its anti-drug agents and agencies are guilty of a very long list of crimes. Ellen Erickson, Eugene.
That's right. That's Alan, a good friend of ours, and writes great letters, and we appreciate it, Alan. And yeah, it's that's something we all can do, is write letters. If you have something to write about and want to say, write a letter to the editor. They're really good about publishing it. I've had pretty good luck myself. And here's one that I'm getting ready to write on. I should have done it already, but this is the editorial now. This is from the Register Guard. This is published. This is published on the 16th, which is just a few days ago, and this is the third. If I know for a fact, it's the third, and it might be the fourth editorial the Register Guard had actually come and forward and saying that the Oregon legislature should forward a legalization initiative and get it on the ballot instead of the activists. And I find it interesting that, first of all, that they're even talking about it, because it wasn't that many years ago they would even talk about legalization, and now they're advocating that it ought to be put on the ballot. So anyway, this is interesting. It's called "A Vacuum on Marijuana." Standing back and watching Washington and Colorado feel the way toward sensible regulations for legal marijuana would be a good option for Oregon, if only the state had the luxury of time. It probably doesn't. The Oregon legislature now appears unlikely to approve a preemptive legal marijuana bill, leaving it to legalization activists to write the rules through the initiative process. Oregons may not like the result. That's just their first article. And what happened was that Senate Bill 1556, which we talked about last show, came out of the Judicial Committee with a due pass recommendation and went to the House Judiciary Committee. Now it moves on to the House Rules Committee, where it is losing momentum. And so what they're saying is if 1556 dies, the 2015 legislature can expect to face the task of implementing a legalization measure written by advocates. And any unintended consequences would be the result of lawmakers' failure to grasp the opportunity before them now. So anyway, that's just a quick summation of what the editorial's about. But basically what they're saying is, again, is that they think the legislature ought to be writing the legalization bill. And frankly, I don't want the legislature anywhere near it. Frankly, I think the advocates ought to be writing the majority of the bill, if not all of it, because who knows more about it than the advocates. They've been working on it every day of their lives for the last 10, 20, how many years, each person's case. And yet you got a politician, all they know about it is what they read in the Reader's Digest and then what their neighbors are saying. So, they don't know anything about it, and they're supposed to make the rules on it. And plus they have the law enforcement lobby, and they're out trying to make rules on it. And who wants cops making laws? What's wrong with this
we don't need more people like the DEA who are going completely against what they're supposed to be doing.
Exactly, yes.
We don't need people like that making laws.
Exactly. So, on one hand, I'd like to see the legislature get it on the ballot, and we don't have to pay for the election, so go for it. But if you don't want to do it, fine, we will. We'll find the funding, and we'll put it on the ballot, and we'll get it. And that's who needs to make the laws anyway, it's the people, not the
government
pinheads,
for the people, by the people.
Exactly. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. We'll be here, will you?